Hey everyone, so today's video is going to be about how to start project panning. So these are just a few things that I feel like would have been helpful for me to know or to hear from someone when I first started off panning, or even before I started panning, just when I started watching YouTube videos and getting into sort of the panning world, because I know a lot of people watch project panning videos, but they don't actually participate or do any project panning themselves. So I thought this would just be helpful for some of you, and let's just go ahead and get straight into sort of my advice and things you can do to start project panning and sort of make it a little bit easier almost. So the first thing is to start with a project that feels exciting to you. So obviously there are a ton of different project pans out there. I would highly recommend joining the Pantastic Ladies group on Facebook. That I did join their group initially, and I found some really great project pans on there and participated in some of them, and they were really fun, especially when you're doing them with other people. So if some specific themed project sounds exciting to you, maybe start with that one as your first project pan, since it gets you so excited to want to pan those products. And there's a bunch of different rules for different projects depending on which one you choose. So I would just choose one that feels exciting to you. The next thing is to curate these projects to your needs. So if you participate in a project pan, you can change the criteria around a little bit just to make it more fitting for you, sort of make it your own version of that project. And a lot of people do this. I find that I have to do this sometimes. If there's a specific product or a specific rule in the project that just is not working for me, I will end up changing it, and that is okay to curate your projects to your own needs and change the projects a little bit, even though it may feel like when you participate in a project that someone else created, you have to stick exactly to their rules and exactly the way they said that they're going to do it, but that's not exactly true. You can still make it your own and figure out what works for you. And along with that, it's also okay to roll out products that aren't working for you, even if you haven't hit your goal on it. I know for me, when I first started project panning, I felt like I couldn't roll out products unless I hit my goal on it, even if it was like torture to use, which that sort of takes the fun out of project panning, and that's the whole point of it. So if you're really not enjoying a product you're trying to pan, I would highly recommend just rolling it out, because it's really no fun trying to pan products that you're just not enjoying and not liking and have to force yourself to use. I would also recommend to pick products strategically. So whether you're doing one project pan or multiple project pans, you want a good range of products. So obviously you don't want to pick like 3 blushes. I find that blush is one of the hardest products to pan. So at once I will probably only be panning 1 blush, and there are a couple of products like maybe concealers or lip products where you can pan a couple at the same time and still make it work. But I would highly recommend just curating your product or projects so that the products in them are not so redundant. I would try to keep your projects sort of evenly distributed throughout the products, the types of products in your collection, and I find that that really helps a lot with project panning. If I'm kind of working on one product from each category, obviously I'm going to be able to make good progress on pretty much every single one of those products. And going along with this, you want to include products in projects where some of them are more difficult and going to be harder and take longer to reach your goal. But you also want to include some sort of gimme products where you can almost easily finish them and you know you're going to be able to hit your goal relatively quickly. And I find that sort of keeping those range of products in projects helps a lot as well, because you don't get sort of sick of the products you're using. If you pan all really difficult products in one project, I find that I will get sick of those products pretty quickly because I'm not really making any progress or seeing much progress on them. So I just kind of get burnt out that way. So I would highly recommend including some more easy products as well as some more difficult products, just to sort of switch it up, and so you get a variety of those types of products, and that way you don't get bored or sick of your projects or products, and I find that that really helps a lot. Another one, which sounds almost like counterintuitive, maybe a little bit, is to pan products that you like. And I feel like when I first started out, I kind of thought, obviously, I wanted to use up the products that I didn't like as much and keep the products in my collection that I did like. So I would tend to pan products that I just wanted out of my collection, but that I maybe didn't like as much. And I feel like that way, obviously, it kind of sucks the fun out of it because you're using basically all the products that you don't like. So this can kind of be one that you integrate into projects where you have maybe a couple products you don't like as much, but then you're also panning some of your favorite products. So I feel like there's a good balance for this, but I would highly recommend pretty much only panning products that you do like and that you enjoy using, or else it's just kind of torture to try to get through products. And sometimes there's products in your collection you maybe don't like as much, but you just want to use them up to get them out of your collection. You don't necessarily want to just declutter them and throw them away, which I understand, and there are some products like that. But generally, I like to pan products that I enjoy using and actually want to reach for. And I find that that's way more fun and exciting to use products that you actually want to reach for. And it's so satisfying when you hit pan on them. But this can also be a little bit scary because you don't want to use up your favorite products. You want to still have them in your collection. So I feel like some people kind of stray away from panning products that they actually really like because they don't want to not have them in their collection anymore. But I've kind of reversed this mindset because I definitely was like that when I first started panning. But now I really love panning products that I like, and if I find after I use them up that I want to repurchase them and that I really miss them in my collection, then I will repurchase them. But for the most part, products that I use up, even if I do like them, I generally don't end up repurchasing them or missing them in my collection, just because I have so many products and I end up finding new favorites that I like better than that old favorite. So I would recommend sticking mostly to products that you like if you can, unless there's like a ton of products in your collection that you want to go through that you don't like. But I would also incorporate those products with some products that you really enjoy using, just so that you don't get sick of the products that you maybe don't enjoy as much, and you can still incorporate those products that bring you joy into your routine along with those other products you may not like as much. Something else that can be sort of difficult to figure out at the beginning when you first start project panning is to set realistic goals. And sometimes it's difficult until you really figure out how long it takes to hit pan on a blush or an eyeshadow. And this, again, is something I struggled with when I first started project panning, is really how long it took to hit pan. I remember the first project pan I did, I was panning a powder blush bronzer and highlight, and I hit pan on the bronzer pretty quickly, and then I hit pan on the highlight not that long after. But the blush took me so long to hit pan on, basically like a whole year. I think it was like maybe 9 or 10 months. So I really was not expecting that with the blush, since the bronzer and the highlight didn't take a super long time to hit pan on. But that's kind of something that I learned with experience and with project panning for so long. So it's kind of something you have to experiment a little bit with. But I would recommend setting realistic goals, and obviously you can have different goals with different products. So some products you may want to completely finish. Like, I find that I can finish concealers pretty quickly, or like eyebrow products sometimes. And then some products you may just want to hit pan on, which can take really, really long, like blushes and highlighters, I find take pretty long to hit pan depending on the formula of them. And then bronzers are kind of like a medium, but I feel like bronzers take a little while too, depending on the formula. Again, each product is going to be different. But some products may be so overwhelming that you can't or don't want to hit pan on them. Maybe you just want to set a usage goal for them, which is a perfectly fine thing to do in project pans. And I set usage goals for a lot of my products that I know I'm just not going to be able to finish. And I find usage goals can be helpful with like lip products or even blushes, because blushes are really difficult for me to pan. And again, depending on the formula, they do take a really, really long time. I have only ever hit pan on one blush, and it was that one blush that took me like 10 months to hit pan on. So I feel like products like those, depending on the product, you can have different goals, and that's totally okay. And also, if it's a shorter term project, like the project only goes for like 1 to 3 months, you may only set usage goals, which I tend to do with a lot of my shorter term projects. But there's also projects that are long term, like my year-long makeup rolling project pan, where I tend to put products in those projects that take a lot longer to use because I potentially have the whole year to pan them. So I will put like things like blushes and bronzers in my year-long project pan, whereas I will put a lot more like lip products, maybe concealers and brow products in my shorter term projects. So you really have to figure out just what products are good for what projects and how quickly you finish off different types of products. And this is definitely very individualized to the specific person, because obviously people go through products way differently, people use products way differently. So you just kind of have to figure out what works for you and set your goals based off of that. So this does take a little bit of learning and experimenting, and it can take a while to figure that out, to really know how long it takes you to go through different products and what products you actually enjoy project panning. Like, I started with an eyeshadow project pan when I first started panning, and it completely did not work for me. I hated working on so many eyeshadows at once. I find that I can get very overwhelmed by working on a lot of eyeshadows, so now I just include maybe one eyeshadow palette or one eyeshadow that I'm trying to hit pan on in like my year-long project pan, and that's a lot less overwhelming for me, and I find that way I can actually hit my goal. So complete eyeshadow project pans are not for me, and I kind of figured that out the hard way, which I feel like you kind of have to do with project panning because it's so individualized. And if you are considering starting a project pan, I would highly recommend just to start, try it out. You don't even have to document your project pans, but I also would recommend to at least take update photos or progress photos, even if you're not posting them. Just take them for yourself so that you kind of get that motivation. I find for me that taking progress photos, even though I do document it obviously here on YouTube, I find that it just helps me stay more motivated to continue to pan the products, because I can see the actual progress that I'm making and that I am making progress. Because sometimes just looking at the product as you're using it, it looks like it never really changes, but when you take those progress photos, you can really see the change, and it just helps to keep me motivated. So I would highly recommend, even if you're not posting to Instagram or YouTube or documenting it online, I would highly recommend just to take those progress photos for yourself. And I find that can be really motivating just to sort of keep me going. But like I said, if you want to start a project pan, I would highly recommend just starting. And there's a lot of experimenting involved with it, which I think is kind of the fun part and makes it more fun as you're just trying to figure out how you like to structure your project pans. So I really hope this was helpful for some of you. Let me know if you guys did enjoy this video, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. I also post videos 3 times a week, so if you want to see more from me, make sure to subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notified every time I post. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.